Hey,
We are. We're back.
okay, give me a second here and I'll be ready to go.
All right.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Good evening, me. We're gonna start, we're gonna start right here.
How do you find?
Let me get this screen out of the way and I'm ready to go. Everybody else ready?
I'm ready.
Sure. Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to our Sunday night offering of astronomy edutainment, the Sunday Night Astronomy Show.
Hey!
Yay!
It is fun, Brad.
Uh,
Oh, that was
My
fun.
name is Chris Gordon. I'm the creator of the social media channels known as Astronomy by the Bay. I'm also an amateur astronomer and a member of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada. Very pleased to welcome back my two co-hosts this evening, Mr. Mike Powell from the PFO Observatory here in St. John. Mike, evening. And Mr. Paul Owen from the Moonshadow Observatory in Littlehampton. Hey, Paul.
Hello.
Hey. Okay, I would like to welcome all of you tonight that are tuning in through the local Rogers TV network, along with Facebook and YouTube. Thanks very much for your support, everybody. So on tonight's episode of the Sunday Night Astronomy Show, we all enjoy the beauty of Mother Nature that Mother Nature provides us, whether it's a special daytime scene or the beauty of a night sky. Getting that great shot of nature to keep for us as a memory can take some planning, but the results can be very rewarding. Tonight's guest understands that process very well, along with being an accomplished keyboardist. Brad Perry is a local accomplished photographer who spends many hours planning and setting up for that shot. Tonight, we're going to have a chat with Brad about what steps he finds are the most important, how careful planning can lead to great results. Brad, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank
Good to
you
have
for
you
having
here.
me.
Welcome to the nut house.
Oh yeah. Is there room for another nut?
Well said. Also tonight, Mike's going to bring back another vinyl bud for an interesting, another great target, actually. Paul will bring us another interesting and informative Rosanna's fun fact. I'll have a quick look at what to watch for this coming week coming up, and we'll have a few of your wonderful photos to share. So sit back and grab your favorite beverage, whatever that happens to be, and enjoy the show with us. And as always, if you have any questions, please post them here. Of course, if you have any questions for Brad, bring them up. So let's get started then with a talk with Brad on how to best capture that special shot. Brad.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I'll start sharing here. This one. And so, yeah, there we go. So basically, the type of photography I'm into is landscape astrophotography. So there's different ways you can go about photographing the night sky, and like if you look at what's behind Paul right now, well, I guess maybe you can't see it now, but there's deep sky, nebulas, and that sort of thing, and that's not what I do. So I like to have the ground in my photos is the simplest way to put it. And the reason that appeals to me is just I like capturing images that maybe the viewer could sort of see themselves in and sort of relate to in that sort of way. And so basically the types of photos that I do are so basically the moon or the sun aligned with some sort of foreground subject. And all those, everything you see on screen right there is a single photo, or each one is a single photo. So it's not Photoshop lining up the moon with anything there. So, and I'm going to talk in a few minutes about sort of how that process works. Milky Way, with either an interesting foreground or just nice landscape, or in one case, me. Sometimes if there's nothing out there, stick yourself in there. I've gotten really good at standing still for a long time. I'll tell you that. Of course, the aurora. I think like a lot of people have sort of caught on to the fact that this is one of the things I chase around a lot at this point. And I've got a few tips for how to track that down. I know I heard Chris say one time that it seemed like when everybody else misses it, somehow I get it.
Yep.
So,
Very true.
I've got some secrets to share. Don't
You're
worry.
a canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, and then meteor showers, star trails. The reason I put these together is because I find that you can sort of set up if you're trying to get meteors, you can set up in a certain way that if you get nothing, you still have a nice star trails photo. So I kind of tuck those, which actually this one in the bottom corner, on the bottom left and the top right, those are from the same shoot. So this was every frame I captured, and then this was the one real nice fireball. But then afterwards I thought, oh, I can just stick all those together and get nice star trails. So those, and then of course, no landscape photographer can resist the golden hour. I know that's not maybe not what we're here to talk about, but you know, you can't resist a good sunset or sunrise. So yeah, what I wanted to talk about tonight was mainly this. I rely largely on phone apps to plan this stuff, and there's quite a number of them that I kind of bounce between, and I'm in them like daily. Like every day I'm kind of searching around and sort of coming up with ideas for shots and that sort of thing, trying to work out what may or may not work. So the apps that I use primarily, first one is PhotoPills. And some people, if you're into landscape photography, you're probably familiar with this thing, but this app is, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say this app probably changed my life in terms of like my view of this type of photography and the unlocking the things that were possible that I didn't really realize. Mm-hmm. So the gist of this app is that you have kind of like a Google Maps type of view of you know, wherever you are. And you can plunk in this little orange pin, and from there lines extend to show you. So in this case, the yellow line is the sunrise, the orange line is sunset, the light blue is the moonrise, the dark blue is the moonset, and then the other two are like where the sun and moon are at the current moment. And you can put the time and date to any time. So you can go, I think it goes like 50 years into the future. You can go.
That's
yeah, you can drop yourself in anywhere on the planet and look between now and 50 years from now, like where the moon's going to come up that night. And it goes way deeper than that. There's you can look at the radiant point of the meteor showers. You can look at the eclipse paths and stuff like that. And there's a whole, like over on the side here, there's a whole other section of it with like just reference for on any given day. You've got like the exact time the moon's going to set, sunset, the blue hour, like all that sort of thing. So you can quickly check like, you know, even as simple as like at the bottom here where it says nighttime, astronomical twilight end. So you would know that on that day, if you're going to go shoot the Milky Way, that's the minute when the true dark night's going to start and you can begin shooting. And so just as a reference, even in that regard, it's amazing. But then planning the shot. So this, right here, this particular screenshot is, so that's Summerside PEI, and there's the little red pin is me, and this black pin is a lighthouse. And if I just jump back here for a second, that is this photo.
Yeah.
So that big pink moon behind that lighthouse, that's how that was calculated. Is just to sit there and figure out, I know there's a lighthouse there. I would like to see the full moon behind it. When and where do I have to go to make that sort of thing happen? So that's kind of, yeah, this app is just incredible. And then there's another one that I found out about, and this one I haven't heard as much about. So this one's called Planet Pro, and it's spelled like Plan It, but I think it's supposed to be some sort of a pun because it's, you know, and on the surface it, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think Paul was one of the developers. Yeah. So this thing generally does all the same stuff as PhotoPills, but then it's got this whole other layer of, for starters, it includes, in addition to the sun, moon, and Milky Way, it's also got all the planets, all the constellations, major stars, all that stuff. I think the comets were in there too. Whenever we've had a major comet, I think it's in there. And you can see those things right on this little map. So like if you want to line up Orion with a target, you can actually get Orion on this little thing and spin time around and see exactly when it's going to line up with, say, a particular tree or that sort of thing. But then the real power is these other two views. And this is where it's got something that PhotoPills doesn't. Which is this like VR thing where you can the landscape that it's showing. So this is basically showing what the shot will look like. So this one over there, that's again that same lighthouse. So you can visualize actually how the photo will look.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so it'll give you like the terrain. It's getting that from data from Google, I think. So it's got all the like the elevation curves and everything. And then in this case, the building is something I had to drop in. So you can actually put in, you can put in full 3D models, but it also can just lets you drop in cylinders. And if you know the height of the building, that's usually enough to figure out if the shot will work. So I would have had to go like research that lighthouse and figure out what its height is, and then I could drop in a little standee of the lighthouse, right, and figure out, and then you can kind of see like if you're off a little bit, because with photo pills you can get really close, but sometimes I find you might be too high, or you're like a few feet away, because of you really need to like look at elevation numbers and compute it all in your head, whereas this one shows you actually what's going to happen. And then there's little arrows, you can move yourself around. So if your shot is almost close, you can just sort of click the arrows and like move in like 1 meter increments across the terrain, and then go back and see where you ended up, and then that's your shooting location. It also helps with if I can go back here, one thing with photo pills is, like in this case, with that example with the lighthouse, I'm basically right on the ocean, right? So there's nothing behind the lighthouse, but where it was catching me a lot is if there's a subject you're interested in, but behind it is a hill, then photo pills, there was no way to tell like when, for instance, the moon would be over that hill, because it's just telling you information about like the subject. So this planet probe, because you can actually see the landscape, you can really tell like, maybe moonrise is at 8 o'clock, but you're not actually going to see it until 8:15 where you are, because there's this, like, basically because of the terrain. So this app has basically really upped the accuracy of these plans for me. And both of them, so they're both for iPhone and Android, and they're like, this one's $15, the other one was 13. They're like a one-time fee, highly worth it. I find those two in particular like the real meat of what I do. And then I've just got a few others to quickly talk about. So this is what I use kind of in place of Stellarium. So this is Sky Guide, and it's basically just you have the whole night sky, you can pan around, you can move time. I really like it just because it's like the graphics in it are really nice, which I know it doesn't really matter, but it's really nice to look at. And like you can turn on this. I don't actually normally have this on, but there's an option to turn on Aurora, which actually it's not real Aurora. It's just for visuals, but it's kind of neat stuff. It's got all the constellations and everything. You can choose whether it actually shows like the mythology and the lines and all that sort of thing. But you can see over here too, you get the actual like the International Space Station passes, which I found that's been pretty helpful. Yeah, I'm just going to jump way ahead for a second here. I'll show you how I was able to use that. So this photo,
cool.
Sky Guide was what I used to figure out when that space station, so that's the International Space Station passing right through Chris's favorite part of the Milky Way. So that's Cygnus. And so I use Sky Guide. What's that?
Everybody's favorite part of the Milky Way.
Everybody, yeah. Anyway, so that app is pretty good just for seeing what's in the sky, and I use it a lot. Just for my own. When I'm out barbecuing and it's getting dark, I can kind of look around and say, trying to train myself. Like I try to guess in advance. What's that star? And then if I'm wrong, I might get it next time. I'm getting better. Anyway, this one's free. There are some paid upgrades. I think I paid maybe $2.99 to unlock like all the constellations. Mm-hmm. One thing that's nice about it, I noticed, is that whenever there's been like the full catalog of comets are behind a subscription, but whenever there's been one that's been making the news, they'll throw that one in for free. Mm-hmm. So like when Leonard was in the sky and what was it, Nishimura, that last one, was that in the fall? I forget what that one was called.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, Yeah, that one, you would have access to that one, and then you could kind of pan around. You could see exactly where the comet was in the sky at any given time, which is helpful because some of these other apps, that's one thing they don't have, and you have to kind of like go based on finding like a couple key stars to kind of go off of.
Mhm.
So there's that, and then of course the Aurora apps that I use. So all my Aurora shots, I pretty well rely on these two apps, and I think these are like a lot of people use these two. I mainly use this one. The reason I got this, and there's something I wanted to point out about this. Maybe we can kind of come back to Aurora talk after, but there's a trick to this one in terms of actually knowing when to really go out.
Right.
And it relates to the reason I got the second one. And well, I guess I'll just say right now, just while we're on it, that this number, right now, like in this screenshot, it's showing 6% chance of seeing northern lights. It took me a long time to realize, and it really wasn't until I got this other app, that 6% is this number, which is the percentage of seeing the lights right over your head, which really means nothing to us.
Right.
What we want to know is what's the odds of seeing it on the horizon, which this app doesn't actually come out and tell you. So you have to almost, like, I usually just take whatever number's there and multiply it by 5 or 10. And that's usually what the horizon is, which you can see over here, like 8% overhead is like over 40% on the horizon. So sometimes people will see, like, I think you might see 1% chance of seeing northern lights and think, well, there's no point going out for 1%, but 1% doesn't mean 1%. 1% means like 1% right above your head, which is very likely that you would be seeing something if you had a good clean horizon. So there's those, and yeah, I think we'll maybe come back to this. And clouds, I use Windy. So this is my weather app of choice. And the reason for this is mostly because of this app splits up the cloud altitudes and shows them, so like low, medium, and high clouds, and it gives you a visual, like, so right now, so I'm basically kind of around here, and this is high cloud. So basically what I can gain from this, because a normal forecast might just say partly cloudy, but from looking at this, I can see, well, it's actually clear to the east. So depending on what I'm shooting, that might be totally fine. Like if it was a moonrise, it doesn't matter if I have clouds behind me, right? Mm-hmm. And so this thing kind of can give you a better idea of like when to go out, especially if, you know, a lot of these moonrise and moonset shots really depend on a clear horizon. The same thing with the aurora. So you can kind of get an idea of if you're going to be wasting your time or not. And this is the other thing that's nice, is that it gives you, I think it's 5 different weather models, and you can compare them. So you can kind of see, like, if one of them says it's clear, but the other ones all think it's going to be raining, then maybe that one guy's a little optimistic. But if they're all in agreement, then it might be game on. And then lastly for that is, in terms of finding where to do these sorts of shots, I use 2 things. One is so this one, it's not an app, just the website, but the lightpollutionmap.info. So it'll give you your dark skies and that sort of thing. Basically you're looking for, you know, not warm colors, red bad, blue good. And I kind of treat this the same way. So like, if I'm looking for northern lights, I might be in a place like, you know, if you're around here, but you're looking this way. So it's sort of like considering how dark the sky is in the direction you're actually shooting, not necessarily where you are. And you can sometimes find some usable spots that, you know, might not work the other way around. So if I was shooting the Milky Way, like usually you want dark sky to the south. So like, you know, here isn't good, but way up here is good, and down here might be fine. And then just Google Street View. So I you know, taking into account like that Photo Pills app and using that to kind of look at like what a potential photo opportunity might be, then I would, after all that, come to Google Street View and see if it's actually realistically possible. Like, is there a place to park? Is there a bunch of trees in the way that I couldn't see, that sort of thing? And so I'll drop into Google Street View, and hopefully, if it's close enough to one, and like these when people make these little, there's like user generated, like the little dots, the 360 photos, those are really helpful. This particular spot, I think, yeah, this is Mactaquac, which is a little spot. I'll just quickly show a couple. This ended up being kind of a little gold mine of a spot. So I was driving across this causeway one day, coming back from the park, and it just sort of hit me. I was like, you know what? This causeway is like, you're looking across the water to the north, and you're looking across the water to the south. I bet there's some good stuff that can happen here. So this is looking across south from that causeway. So it's taken right on the edge of the causeway. Yeah. And there's like that Planet Pro app showing like basically I can work it out in advance exactly what it's going to look like. Mm-hmm. And then when you get there, there's a shot. And there's what it would have looked like in photo pills as well. So there's that causeway. That's exactly, I think, where I was. Something funny came up when I did this, actually, because I had done so much planning in advance. I went out there. This shot was, what time of night was that? So this is 12:48 in the morning, because it was June. That's when dark night starts, right? Yeah. And I hadn't gone out in the daytime to scout out the spot. I've driven past there. I looked at the Google Maps and everything. I had a pretty good idea. I figured out where I could park my car. And I was parked across the street, and I kind of went across the road and went down this little area. I was going to go out on this little piece of land that juts out, this little breakwater. And I got halfway out it, so I'm walking with my headlamp at midnight, and I get halfway out it, and I'm always kind of imagining what could possibly, like, what's going to go wrong tonight. And this was the one that I think this topped them all in terms of things I would have never expected. And it was, I'm walking along, and all of a sudden my headlamp catches a sign. There's a sign posted right in the middle of this breakwater. And I think, what does that say? And I get up to it, and it says,
"Don't jump."
It basically said you can't go any further because it's a protected nesting area for a rare tern. So this bird, yeah, I thought, well, I did not see that coming. I thought maybe no trespassing, but don't bother the birds was the last thing I expect. So in the end, I moved over here, and I think I like it better anyway, because then the breakwater is actually in the photo, but. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so just about that spot. So that's looking south, and then this was a different night, but that's looking north from that same spot. And so this is like Northern Lights also in July, actually. People think it's a winter thing, but yeah. Anyway, just in terms of, using these tools to kind of find a spot. Both these things this is another one I just kind of, in the back of my brain, I was like, remember that spot. Next time there's a high KP or whatever it is. And it's about, I'm trying to think how far this is from my house. It's got to be at least 40 minute drive. Mm-hmm. So it's always a gamble, especially for the Northern Lights, because you might leave your house and it's like they're just rocking. By the time you get there, they've died down. Yeah. So that night it worked out, but I've had a few stinkers in that regard. You get out there and it's already, you missed it or whatever it may be, or clouds over, of course. Yeah. You can't do anything about that. Yeah. Do you want me to keep going?
Sure. Keep
going.
What should we do?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about just in terms of finding locations and making plans around a specific spot. Let's talk about St. Andrews, May 22nd, 2022. So I'm a musician, so I play in a band, and there's a music festival that happens in St. Andrew in May every year. It's called Paddle Fest. And that particular year, we were the closing band on the Friday night. So, because I'm always running these apps in the back of my brain and always thinking about photos, I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to be already up, because I think we played until 12:30 or something like that. So I'm going to be down there. I'm going to be right on the ocean. I'm still going to be up. I've got a hotel room, and my family was actually going to stay with my in-laws the next day. So I was like, I don't even have to be a dad the next day. So So I thought, well, this is going to be good. So I was at an oil change in Fredericton that morning, and I basically was into my apps, and I came up with two plans. And so the idea was, I looked at PhotoPills and figured out that, so this is on the Friday. Actually, this is the wrong, is that the wrong date? Anyway, it's close enough. But basically, nighttime begins, or sorry, the Milky Way is visible as of 11:33. And then the moon rises at 2:10. So I thought, well, if I play my cards right, I can go get the Milky Way and then go get a moonrise and then go sleep in a hotel. So the first plan was this right here. So, and it's kind of cool because anybody who knows St. Andrews knows like everything is pretty well walkable there. It's a small place. So I think we were playing right here. And I figured out that you just kind of just drive down the road and around the corner, and there's a beach with a campground across the street.
Yeah.
And there's a little parking area. So I thought, perfect. I can dump my car there, go across the street to the beach. And this is the view that PhotoPills gives you for the Milky Way. So these bubbles represent, the bigger ones are like the center of the Milky Way. So and then as you go this way, this is like looking down at basically looking down at a sphere. So you're kind of like looking at the Milky Way going over the dome. Mm-hmm. So I figured that out and basically went over there and got this.
Nice.
Yeah. And the funny thing is the skies cleared. That part was fine. The only thing I was actually worried about is because it was right after a music festival, I was worried there's going to be a bunch of people partying down there, but luckily there was nobody down there. So I had the beach to myself. And I got that. And then, so this is at 1:24. And so remember, moonrise is at, I think it was 2:10. So the following photo, so I went back to this little wharf right here. And what I'd figured out is that if you go out on the wharf, over on this little road that juts out, there's a lighthouse and some houses. And then basically the moon was going to rise right there. So after I did that, I just went back, basically right back to where the music venue was, parked again, and got this.
There you go.
There it is. So so this was kind of an idea that I had. I've seen a few people do this sort of thing. It's the idea of like, kind of like doing star trails, but with the moon. So you basically take a whole bunch of shots of the moon, and then in Photoshop, you just use the lighten mode. And basically you put them all on top of each other, they'll show up. So there's 75 photos of the moon to get the what my friends call the stack of Pringles. And and then once the moon was up here at its final spot, it was starting to, you can see up here there's a cloud coming in, right? So it was kind of going to be game over anyway. Once it got up to that final height, I took this 30-second photo, which is the rest of the shot. Right. So these were all basically short exposures. And you can actually see too, that like right here, that's the reflection of that last position. And actually my favorite little detail about this too, is right here, that this house, must have had a window at the front and the back, because you can actually see the red moon like through the window of that house.
Okay,
yeah. That's kind of a neat little detail. But yeah, so this photo, and while we're on here, I have to personally thank Paul, because he was the one who I had sent this into the program, and he recommended that I send this into Sky News. And I think you even messaged me and poked me again at one point eventually. So this ended up becoming one of Sky News was doing. It's photo of the week, right? Photo of the week, and then each photo of the week becomes like a contender for like a series of prizes. Yeah. And basically this one won the Reader's Choice. I don't know if you can see my view right now or not.
No, you can't see that because you're small.
Okay, here.
We'll show that after you've done the picture.
Here, I'll just stop that for a minute. There. So there it is, published. And the funny thing about all that was the rest of my bandmates were like, "You're going to do what right now?" Jokes on them. And actually, what was cool about that? So it's cool to be obviously honored to be published and everything, but the prize was an actual Star Tracker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the Ioptron Sky Guider Pro, which for what I do was like it was something that I've wanted, and it was just sort of maybe down the road in terms of budget, but it's like directly useful to what I do. So a lot of those Milky Way shots and that sort of thing, I was able to improve. Like if I share again here. Back up there.
Yep.
Yeah. So the shot prior that we were looking at. So this one, obviously no trackers. That was just done with stacking. But with the tracker, later, like this was at Mount Carlton. So I could, now I can get into much more detailed Milky Way and that sort of thing. I've tried a little bit of the, a few deep sky targets and that sort of thing, but mostly I try to stick to the wide field stuff.
Those are dark skies, aren't they?
That was probably so this was last year. Actually pretty well just exactly a year later than that St. Andrews ordeal. This was, my wife and I went camping, and this was hands down like the best day of that year. Earlier that night, we climbed one of the mountains. I don't have any photos. Actually, wait, I do have. There's one photo was in that. So this down here, that's from the top of Mount Bailey. So we did that, and then we came back, and later that night, I got that and without moving, just turning around, got that.
Wow.
So I had planned a spot right out in the middle of, is this it? Yeah. So we stayed at the Armstrong campground.
Yep.
So there's a little piece of beach that goes right out into the middle of the lake. So, and that was part of why we chose that camp spot, because I kind of, again, with these apps figured out in advance that like I can get the Milky Way straight across the lake. The Aurora was bonus. And the funny thing about the Aurora, if I have... Yeah, because as you guys know, you've done star parties there. There's no cell service in that park, right? Other than at the lodge at the top of the mountains. If you get the top of the mountains, all of a sudden all the texts and stuff will start showing up. And so every time we went to the lodge, we would, check in check weather, do that sort of thing, check in with family and that. But I wasn't really aware, or maybe, I don't know if I had a bit of a hint, but I didn't really know this was going to happen, the Aurora, until when we were climbing Mount Bailey and we got to the top. When all of a sudden the messages started popping up, I had a Twitter message from a random person, and she shared a post from Astronomy by the Bay. I can't get rid of this guy.
Oops.
Yeah. Anyway, so this person was just asking me, based on this, do you think I could see it in Kokang? And I thought, gee, can I see it here? So yeah, and as luck would have it, we went back to our campsite. We had a little nap, and then I got up at whatever time that was, like 1 a.m. or something. Actually, I think it was like Christmas morning. Like I actually naturally woke up at like 12:45, like ready to go, because I couldn't wait to get down there. And it was awesome too, because it had been raining like the whole day before, and earlier that morning it was raining. And every time we went to the lodge, I was checking the weather, and I said it might clear off. And then sure enough, it was like there was not a cloud in the sky when I went down there. Yeah. And yeah, what a treat to stand under that. And I remember actually when I first I sent this into the show back when that happened. And Paul, you caught on right away to the how windy it was. Like if you look at the water, you don't get like the reflection like you would have in
if it had been still, yeah.
Yeah, like this one, the Mactaquac one, you can actually see stars in the water, whereas that's the only thing I if I'm greedy, I wish that I could have had still water, but other than that, it was
you have to go
quite
back
a view.
Again.
Yeah, I want to go back. It's logistically it's a little bit tricky. We've got to we've got a 4-year-old, and we had booked the campsite originally thinking we were going to take them, and then we started thinking it through. Nobody's going to get up any mountains with a
No.
kid that old or that young. So we were able to pawn them off. So last thing, let's do a little quick chat about the aurora. So this was the first shot I ever got of the aurora. And prior to that, and I think a lot of people probably would have had the same mentality a couple of years ago. I didn't think you could see it here, you know. Every once in a while you'd hear about it, but and I'd go out once in a while, and you don't even know what you're looking for if you if you haven't seen it sometimes. So what had happened was somebody I woke up one morning and checked Facebook. This was October 2021. I think it was only maybe a few weeks prior. I got up in the morning, I looked at Facebook, and 2 different people of my Facebook friends had cell phone pictures of the Northern Lights. One was in Alberta, but one was in Shediac. And I thought, hold on now. Because at this point I'd gotten into, I kind of know where the moon's going to be and, when the meteor showers are. I thought, how did this slip past me? So that's kind of what started the chase. And then, there was an opportunity. And I went out to the spot. This was at a friend's. I have a friend who has a camp, and this is kind of in the road or along the road that leads in there. Mm-hmm. And luckily he's been to Norway and he's seen like real Northern Lights. So he was actually a little bit of a guide in terms of like, are we actually, is this it? What are we? And once we took a few shots and we were looking at them, we thought, yeah, we're getting it. And the other thing about this shot is this was actually how I discovered Astronomy by the Bay, because I think that I somehow just by luck saw a post about the night before, and people were commenting with photos and stuff like that. And so I popped that in there, and Chris said, we'll have that up on tonight's program. And I thought, well, what does that mean? Uh-oh. Yeah. And here we are. So there was that. And then like a week later, so at this point I'd kind of I had one of those apps in my phone already, but I after that first night, I kind of dialed it in a little bit and got the notifications set up right. And so that other one was October 30th. This is November 4th. So yeah, like basically within a week. I woke up one morning and I looked at my phone and it said KP8 right then. And I thought, oh, whoa. So I got out of bed, and this is where I have a little bit of an advantage. So where I live, I'm in a Bortle 3. So just right at my house, like I can go outside and see the Milky Way, like in my driveway. And this is a field that's basically up the street from my house. And it's like the elevation's higher too, so you basically have a good sight line. And this I will never forget, because when I drove up there, so the previous photo, this one was one of those ones that you don't even know if you're seeing it. You know what I mean? Like it's showing up in the camera, but this one, I could see these pillars while I was still driving. Like I wasn't even out of the car. Like the headlights were still on, and I could see that. Obviously not with the color and everything, but you could see the shapes.
You could see the movement and stuff. Yeah, they were moving, were they?
Yeah, they're moving, and they were, I mean, this is so I'm on a crop sensor camera, so that the 16 millimeters is a 24 millimeter field of view, but that's a pretty wide shot. So it's like, these pillars are going pretty high into the sky. And so that was the one that really fueled it. And then from there, there's, we saw this one already. This is one of the best ones I've seen, that one in Mactaquac. Mm-hmm. This is at Shagamock Cove, which there's a suspension bridge near Nakawik that, again, I try to keep these things in my brain. I went and visited the suspension bridge in the daytime, and I realized that when you cross the bridge, there's a trail that follows the water, and it looks perfectly north. And I thought, well, keep that one in the back of the brain. Yeah. So there's that one. A couple more from just around that same field in the winter. And these ones, there's actually, this one's kind of cool, because that is a total coincidence. There's a spike of red in the aurora that like kind of mirrors the headlamp.
Oh, that one. That's
Yeah.
They called that. Are you familiar with Steve?
Yeah. Is that what that is?
That's part of what that was, or it was a derivative of that. Actually, I had posted a picture similar. That was in the east, right? You were looking north. It was more to the east that you saw that.
No, that's perfectly north.
Okay,
That
then
one is.
that may or may not have been that then. Because
Oh, okay, yeah.
Steve will show up a little bit, almost a little to the east, not due east, but more northeast.
Yeah. I've seen something like that west a little bit. I don't know if it goes all the way across, but anyway, but yeah.
Yeah.
And this was with this one was with some moonlight too. You can kind of see like there's like a different color going on the sky. And actually it's sort of, I mean, like when you really think about the logic of this photo, it's a little bit corny that like, I mean, I put myself in the photo just to give, because it's an empty field, right? But if you really think about it, why is this guy standing on there with a big white light on his head trying to see the northern lights? But it was this little detail I thought was really cool. It's not like this isn't photoshopped or anything. That's a single photo that it just. Now I had to. The thing is, I stood there for several shots, and there was just one of them where this red spike showed up. I thought, well, that's really cool. And then one more of these, and this one was, so this was recently, this was in November, and this was the hands down the best I've seen.
Wow.
Like I could not believe that night. This was the first time that I could definitively say that I was seeing the actual green color. Not obviously that bright, but usually it just kind of looks gray.
Mm-hmm.
But that night, and this was one of those nights that it was like everybody was on high alert, and it just didn't happen right away. I think this was the third time I went out that night. I went out once and it was cloudy, and I went out a second time, and that's actually when I got that weird red thing. I don't know if it was Steve or I think I looked it up. There's another name for it. Like I forget what it is. It's something. It's like SAR, something Aurora Reds. Yeah. There was that going. Yeah, that was going on first, and then I had pretty well given up at that point. It was one of those nights that they're calling for KP6 or something, and it just wasn't happening. And then finally, I went out again and drove down to the highway, and I remember texting my wife that I said, it's like Iceland out here right now. Like I could not believe like I was actually seeing it rippling along and all that. And then I changed spots and went up. This is really high up on a hill on the edge of the highway. So you can actually like, I'm seeing like over the edge and like down into the valley and all that. But yeah, this one was unbelievable. Like I would have never guessed that you could see that in New Brunswick.
Kurt just tuned in and said it was SARS, SARS.
SARS, yeah. I was just looking it up.
Oh, okay.
It's stable auroral red.
That's the one. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, because I thought it was Steve, and then I got looking into it, and I found that stable Aurora Reds. That was the one.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of close off here just with a couple of tips for the Aurora, like I promised.
Right.
So with the apps, so like I said earlier, one thing is to keep in mind that if you're using this app, that little percentage means the percentage over your head, and chances are if it's even 1 or 2%, that means you can see it on the horizon. As long as you have a dark sky, you have a view to the north that's not blocked by trees and stuff like that. And the other thing is that the KP can be a little bit misleading. So what I actually go by is this right here. So on the second page of this app, there's this viewing probability, and it shows it basically over the next half hour. The signal that I go by, and like I do check the BZ and all that sort of stuff, but basically the thing that when I decide to go out, it's because this number is either holding steady or trending upward. Mm-hmm. So you see like in this screenshot, it's like currently 1%, but it's going to be 2%. And if you see that, and then, like down here, there's a 3, that's when you go out. Because usually, and like, as you can see, it's that method's been working for me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll get like, I often see it's like KP5, but it still shows 0% visibility, and it has to do with this. So it just has to do with like the the aurora oval isn't at your location yet, or
Right.
it's past it. You know, like if it's like later in the night, it might be over in the prairies and that sort of thing. I also try to look for this, like if you're seeing the higher probabilities and they're directly north from you, that usually is a good sign too. You know what I mean? Like if these people are getting a real good show, then me directly south of that might be getting an okay show. And then very last thing I wanted to mention about that is this is the difference that no moonlight makes. So these were taken the same day. So this is, and I believe the KP and everything held strong throughout the whole day. So this is at basically 4 a.m. The moon had set an hour prior, and this was like KP 6 or 7. The same night, we had a first quarter moon, and it was still KP 5 at least, and like you can barely see it, right?
Yeah.
So it's something to keep in mind if like for anybody kind of chasing this sort of thing, that, you know, keep your expectations in check if the moon is out. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, I'll hand it back to you guys from there.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. I have a question. Are you familiar? Do you watch Alan Wallace at all?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I watch all of his. Yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, I just when I'm looking at your shots, and then I followed him for quite a long. I haven't watched him in a little bit, but when I first started to follow him, he does a lot of what you're doing, and or you're
He does
doing.
it better, but yeah.
But in any event, it's the kind of thing that it can become a good lifestyle, and it's for me, it's a lot. It's the difficulty lies in the preparation, but
Yes.
the acquisition of it is really quite easy.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, like it doesn't require a lot of equipment, and there's kind of almost the same techniques for most shots.
Yeah,
And
one thing I don't know if anybody picked up on this, but a lot of those Aurora shots on the side where I had the settings listed, a lot of them are identical settings.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I've kind of found a certain
kind of a
for
sweet
those
spot.
types of shots. Yeah, and it has to do with, and going back to photo pills. In photo pills, you can calculate the longest exposure for your focal length where the stars won't trail.
Mhm.
And so for like this is my Aurora rig right here. So it's just a Sony A6000. This is a 16 millimeter lens,
Mhm.
which again on the crop sensor is a 24 millimeter field of view. But at that focal length, it's like, I think if you want to make a massive print, it's like 5 seconds. And then if you're not too concerned, it's maybe 13. So I usually go at 8, like kind of right in the middle of that.
Yeah,
And yeah, and that one that I was talking about in November, the real stunning show, I actually had to dial it a little shorter because it was so active
Wow.
that I had to
Yeah.
go to a shorter shutter speed.
That's
Yeah.
always a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
we had a fellow on earlier, and he chases auroras like crazy now. Jason Gain, I don't know if you know who him yet.
Yeah, I watched that episode. Yeah.
And yeah, so he talked about that, about depending on your shutter speed and how active that the movement is, because the more active that the auroras are, then the shorter of a shutter speed that you're going to want, because otherwise they'll start to blur out.
Yeah, and I think he was saying he was into more like 1 second a lot of times,
Yeah,
because
his are really short.
he was shooting in places where it's like, you know,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he
Quite a
was
bit of
up. Yeah,
movement,
he goes.
yeah.
he leaves the province.
he doesn't just drive down to the highway.
Yeah, but anyway, what I was saying was that it's the kind of thing that anybody can do with just a little bit of knowledge as far as
Absolutely.
camera work, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a small rig, it fits in your backpack and you know that the tripod, and off you go. But what you're doing with all the apps and stuff has opened my eyes a lot, because I didn't realize, first of all, there was that many apps that you would use, and it makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense now that you've explained it the way you have.
Yeah. And honestly, like when you talk about not needing a lot of equipment, a lot of those shots, especially the earlier ones, were with the kit lens from that camera. Like I didn't get this. This is like an f1.4, but I didn't get that until I think the year before last. So prior to that, I was just using the lens that came with the camera. And like you said, if you kind of employ a bit of knowledge and and certain techniques, like, getting into the stacking, you can kind of get quite a ways with just like the basic equipment.
Absolutely.
And then you upgrade as you see what actually. The funny thing is, I mean, I would love to upgrade the camera body, but that's always been the last thing that's been important.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, one of the best upgrades I made was this L bracket, which just lets you put the camera on the tripod vertically without the weight toppling around.
Yeah.
Like just things like, and the intervalometer, which is like, this is the other half of it. So just little things like that make way more difference than, investing in thousands of dollars.
What camera body are you using?
It's the Sony A6000.
Oh, okay.
Which is the first one of those, like well, not the first, but like of that series, like they're into the A6600 now. Like this was the first one of those, and
yeah,
it's fine for what I'm doing. Like,
yeah. Well, obviously the results are showing that.
yeah. Well, and the funny thing is too that shot, the Moonrise, the St. Andrews one that we talked about. The lens that I used is this, which is a Canon, like the cheapest Canon zoom lens. I got this for
70 to 300.
75 to 300.
Yeah.
It's like an f4. Yeah.
4.5 to something.
Yeah. Yeah. I've just got an adapter on it to adapt to Sony. I bought this for $60 at a pawn shop. And then got a photo that's in a magazine.
Yeah, well, that's right after Mike's heart, because Mike's.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Yeah, it needs some duct tape on it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Couple questions for you. Actually, one from Jeff Pendlebury says, "What are you doing in his lighthouse?" No, he didn't say that.
I was on the other side of the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff says, a few years ago, I remember hearing about an app that helped you with cloud cover and potential for sunsets and sunrises, but it was a US-based app and didn't include Canada. Have you ever heard of that app?
I haven't. I know that there was one. It wouldn't have been that one, I don't think. But I actually beta tested an app. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but it was supposed to predict. It was supposed to take the cloud data and figure out whether there would be one of those big colorful sunsets. Mm-hmm. And it had this scale that was like, it said like either fair, poor, or there would be like good, excellent, spectacular. And it was like this, like it had no numbers or anything. It just which gave it a word. But the problem with it was that it would change at the last second. So it would just update itself almost based on what actually happened. So you couldn't plan anything around it. Like it would say it's going to be a spectacular sunset, and then 5 minutes out it'd be like, oh, never mind, it's just going to be fine.
Oh yeah.
But no, sorry, I don't know what app that would have been.
That's all right. Yeah, an awesome presentation. We've got lots of comments here for your great presentation. Thank you so much, Brad. Great, awesome. Great information, and people can go back and review all that as well. All the data that you had out there, the apps ideas are great. I can see where your shots are coming together because of these two apps for sure now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great help.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we're at 9 o'clock actually. Do we want to carry on, guys?
Oh yeah, we can roll through. We can.
All right, let's do it. Why not? Okay, Mr. Powell, you're up next, sir.
Oh, okay. Here. It's here somewhere.
They shared your website too, Brad.
Alrighty. Binocular target of the week. This week by Bonabud is the broken engagement ring. No real meaning behind that, by the way.
Yeah, okay.
So the broken engagement ring is located near the bowl of the Big Dipper. It's made up of a semicircle of stars about 15 minutes in size. The bright star in the upper left at 7.4 magnitude could be considered the diamond of the ring. And the lower right section of the ring is actually missing. So using your imagination, the bright three stars to the lower right could be considered the missing stars of the broken engagement ring. So how do I find it in the sky? Well, on a clear night, which we haven't had a whole lot of, but it looks like it might be there tonight, Go out at 11 o'clock, orient yourself at 50 degrees northeast, look up. You can't miss the Big Dipper. Everybody knows the shape. And right here, I think, what's it called? Merak, I think is the name of that star. Just come up from that, and the broken engagement ring is right in this area here. Again, come down. There's Merak there. Come down. Look, there's the broken engagement ring right in here. So you can't miss it. Don't worry. What it kind of looks like, see, you got a semicircle with a bright star at the top. So the edge of the whole this side of the ring is broken. So that's why they call it the broken engagement ring. 10 by 50 binoculars. Yeah, it's a good size. That bright star that acts as a diamond stands out. And you can see that it's a semicircle right in there. And you can make out that it's a broken engagement ring. Compared to the full moon, oh, maybe half the size of a full moon. But it still stands out pretty good in the sky. And here it comes. What did the astronaut see in the skillet? An unidentified flying object.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I love the painful puns. That's binocular target of the week by Bino.
Awesome, Mike.
Hey, if that broken engagement ring was in Ursa Major, does that mean she couldn't bear to spend her life with him?
Oh, here we go.
You want to have you back, Brad? It's great in. See that? You're part of the show. Just that easy. Thanks, Mike. Perfect. Okay, let's go to I'll go to Rosanna next. Because let me make sure I see that one in.
Let me see if I can't share them off screen and see if I can make this happen. Okay, and this is
Fun fact.
yeah. Welcome back, Rosanna, to another wonderful fun fact. And this week we've got a lot to talk about, and not a lot in length, but just a lot because it's really, really interesting. And I went over this one, Rosanna, if you're watching, and I knew you put some words in there to stump me, so I'm going to see if I can pull this off. So anyway, here we go. So Rosanna writes, hi, Paul. In almost every get-together, there are always the people behind the scenes that are actually the building blocks of an event. Of course, there are stellar upfront ones that gain our attention, but often it is greatly rewarding to look at the quiet, unsung hero types. So since at least 290 moons have been discovered in our solar system, and today I thought I'd give a little attention to some of the lesser known moons. Now, let me see if I can pull this off. Where are the picatures? Look at that. I did it. All right. So let's say hello to Hyperion. This small moon of Saturn, shown here in an image from NASA's Cassini spacecraft, is made up of about 40% empty space, giving it a sponge-like appearance. It is one of the coolest lesser-known moons of Saturn, and another lesser-known moon is Mimas. I'm going to make that a little larger so you can see it. Now, this one's cool. Mike, I think you can appreciate this. Saturn's moon Mimas is special for two reasons. First, it's the smallest object in the solar system to be given gravitationally rounded. And second, because of a giant crater, Mimas looks like the Death Star. Funnily enough, when George Lucas wrote the line, "That's no moon, it's a space station," in 1977 Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, Mimas had not yet been observed closely enough to see what it looked like. The first mission to get a close-up of the images of Mimas were NASA's Voyager 1 and 2 in 1980 and 1981. And on just past Wednesday, February the 7th, The Guardian published this headline: Saturn's Death Star moon has hidden ocean under its crust, says scientists. So let's move on to the next image. I love the images she sends. Calculations suggest a 45-mile deep internal body of water lurks beneath Mimas's 15-mile thick icy shell. And this image here is a recomposed image of Mimas, a satellite of Saturn, with an ocean under its ice crust. Now, peculiarities in Mimas's orbit had led to astronomers to entertain two possibilities. Either it contained an elongated core shrouded in ice or an internal ocean that allowed its outer shell to shift independently of the core. By analyzing thousands of images from NASA's Cassini mission to Saturn, Laney and his colleagues reconstructed the precise spin and orbital motion of Mimas as it looped around the gas giant. There are calculations showing that Mimas must possess a hidden subsurface ocean to move the way that it does. The unexpected discovery means that Mimas, an ice ball 250 miles wide, becomes the latest member of an exclusive club, joining Saturn's Titan and Enceladus and Jupiter's Europa and Ganymede as moons known to harbor subterranean oceans. Now, this one's kind of cool. This cutie is called Pan. Now, Pan's northern hemisphere, imaged by Cassini, Cassini captured this view of the northern hemisphere of Saturn's moon Pan, which orbits within the Encke gap of the planet's rings on March the 7th, 2017, from a distance of about 25,000 kilometers or 15,500 miles. Now, Pan is the innermost of Saturn's named moons and bears an adorable resemblance to some kind of dumpling or pierogi or empanada or ravioli or whatever doughy pocket you prefer. Personally, it makes me want a chocolate-filled, and I can't get this one, ham and tashin. If you guys know what that is, I don't. Pan is also known as a ring shepherd because it keeps one of the gaps between Saturn's rings clear of particles. So the reason Pan has its dumpling shape is likely because of its shepherd role. Pan's orientation as it moves through space makes it so that loose ring material it picks up and settles on its surface around its equator. It's also rather possible that it got this shape when two even smaller moonlets crashed into each other and merged, creating a ridge where they are combined. And now for some exciting space news. A fragment of the asteroid 2024 BXI recovered in Germany is a rare class called Albright, and this image is from SETI. Fragments of an asteroid that exploded over Germany on January 21st and were recovered 5 days later have been confirmed to be rare space rock type that could help shed light on Earth's origins. As Space.com initially reported on February the 1st, scientists suspected that the strange appearance of the meteorite fragments from the parent asteroid 2024 BXI indicated they were part of a rare group of Albrights. These suspicions have now been confirmed. So, what is an Albright? So, Albrights are primarily composed of large white crystals of either of the iron poor, magnesium rich, orthopyroxene, or enstatites with minor phases of ovalene, nickel iron metal, and troilite, indicating a magmatic formation under extremely reducing conditions. SETI Institute meteor astronomer Peter Jeniskens was part of the team that found several of these meteorites. He stated that prior to this, only 11 examples of Albright meteorite falls had been found on Earth. The incredibly rare samples are from a family believed to represent just 1% of known meteorites. I doubt I'll ever be able to buy a little piece of any Albright to add to my collection. If you like to get ahead of the news about potentially hazardous asteroids heading our way, there is a great asteroid watch dashboard created by NASA. This is an asteroid, an asteroid, there we go, for February 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. And here is the February 11th and 12th. And yes, what a ridiculous amount of tabs I have open. But these are what they're saying. So with this tab, you can see the actual size of the asteroid. the name, in this case, 2024 CU, the closest approach to Earth, which in this case is going to be 430,000 miles, and the date. And this next one you see right below it, its approximate size is about the size of an airplane. And of course, its name and its closest approach is 2,120,000 miles. So it's kind of a cool dashboard. Now, the Asteroid Watch dashboard tracks asteroids and comets that will make relatively close approaches to Earth. The dashboard displays the date of closest approach, approximate object diameter, relative size, and distance from Earth for each encounter. The object's name is displayed by hovering over its encounter date. Click on the encounter date will display a web with details about that object. The dashboard displays the next 5 approaches to within 4.6 million miles, and here's another one that she put up, which is 7.5 million kilometers, or 19.5 times the distance to the moon. An object larger than about 150 meters that can approach the Earth to within the distance is termed a potentially hazardous object. So this is the February 13th and 14th. Yes, this is the February and 13th, 14th, but check for updates, because by the time I finished writing this, the dates for approach had changed. So look at that. So you may not have thought ahead to your Valentine's Day plans, but you can always show a sweetheart this asteroid map and check out which asteroid is due for a flyby. It's a wow every time. And that is this week's. Wow, there you go.
Hey.
That was a lot to get through, but I got to tell you, that is so interesting.
I love the weird moons of the solar system. There's so many, like that little pan with the shape around, looks like a piece of pasta, right?
Yeah. Well, what I found interesting about the whole thing was I knew that there was, gaps in the Saturn's rings, but it was interesting to actually see one and what they thought and why it was there and how it kept that ring space open. It's awesome.
And as you were presenting your talk, I was writing down the moons that had water. I'm going to mention it afterwards. She mentioned it all right there. Awesome. Yeah. Very good. Awesome. Thank you again, Rosanna. You're very interesting. Okay, I'm going to go really quickly through a quick PowerPoint just to say what's up this week and then a few photos, and then we're going to close out because I know we're running a little bit long here. So just give me a second. I'm going to drag my screens around here so I can get things to set up. Share first though. That one.
Frying saucer.
Okay, really quick look at what's up this week. You up there? Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Okay. I just need the right present page up, so I need this there. Okay. So what's quick to look at this week? Well, it's all about the moon, really. Tomorrow night, the moon greets Neptune. Now, greets Neptune, I could say, but it's in the same portion of the sky with Neptune. So if you've never seen Neptune, it might be an opportunity to catch it. If you do have a telescope, tomorrow evening might give you the chance to spot Neptune as it appears just below and to the west of the moon. It is a difficult target and will appear, at least to me it does, as a little soft blue ball in the telescope. So really no detail, but you can say you've seen the farthest out planet in the solar system. I'm not going to argue that one. Okay, from there, Thursday night, the moon greets Jupiter. And I mean, there's our sky. It's not just Jupiter, of course. And Thursday evening, watch the winter sky as our moon greets the next brightest object, not brightest, but brightest object in the sky, Jupiter. Of course, there is much more to see with the beautiful Pleiades, the Hyades star cluster, orange Aldebaran and Betelgeuse, blue-white Rigel, and brilliant Sirius nearby. Perfect sky to check out with binoculars. So if you get a nice clear sky, look at all that stuff you get to see. And you can spend hours out there.
Yes.
At least a few minutes. Friday night, first quarter moon. First quarter moon arrives on Friday at 11 a.m. It's a perfect time to get out with those binoculars and follow along that line we call the terminator that separates day and night on the moon. It's a perfect time to get a look at all these craters that you can see a lot more clearly because there are sun rays or shadows basting down inside the craters. So Very nice to watch that. And Saturday evening, well, that's the wrong slide. This is the one. Friday evening, sorry. The Lunar X. And we haven't seen the Lunar X, I don't think, for a little while. Yeah, the Lunar X is an effect in which light and shadows create the appearance of an X on the rims of 3 craters, Blanchinus, Lacaille, and Purbach. And the X is only visible for just for a few hours near the first quarter, so it's right there, and you might even get the lunar V up here in the corner as well. That's what it looks like through a telescope. Want to do a recap of all this? You can always go to Lisa's Lookup, Astronomy More. Lisa's on Facebook here with us, and she has a great page. She puts out the event list and the date and peak time to see that particular event and what you'd need for seeing tools, naked eye, binoculars, or a telescope. So you can follow her at Ruby Moonbeams on Instagram, X, Mastodon, and Facebook. And finally, our St. John Astronomy Club and our Rask NB calendar put together by our own Kurt Nason, who does a great job on his calendar every month. And here's the next 6 weeks, basically, or at least the next 4 or 5 weeks. And all the data, everything that's going to be happening over the next month is all listed here. So you can always find that calendar. You can download it for free at sjastronomy.ca. And that's all you have to do with that. So watch the moon this week, I guess, bottom line.
I love this. This is my favorite part of the moon cycle. It's like the few days after the new moon, when you get that the crescent with the earth shine going down in the early evening.
Absolutely.
And then you still have a whole night of dark sky. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Enjoyable. Okay, quickly for a few photos, and then we're gonna sign out. So give me a second. I'm just gonna get my photo page up here. Just need a second. Promise. Okay. Move over to screen over here.
We got to get some music.
Yeah. Or you can do this part. Doesn't matter to me. This one.
Is that Jeopardy music in the public domain yet?
Okay, we got a shot here of some sun shots because we've got a big, beautiful sun out there right now. Look at this one, right? This big AR 35 or 3657, I think it's called. Huge sunspot, the size of 15 Earths at least. It's been active with a couple of X-class solar flares the last a couple of days. It hasn't rotated off yet, so we still have a little bit of time to possibly have a big solar flare and some big clouds of plasma and maybe a aurora evening. Who knows? So, but all kinds of activity. We're not even at solar maximum yet. So we get this along this line with the eclipse coming. It's going to be a fantastic opportunity for photos. Here's a closer up shot from Mike Powell.
Nice.
I was this morning taking through a bunch of trees.
Look at the activity, eh?
Yeah, and there's this crescent moon shot from
Oh,
tonight.
there's that shot, Brad, you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
I was just running out and went, whoa, take a shot, come back up for the show.
I never get tired of those.
No.
Here's Kathy Adams' capture of the sun again today. Everybody's shooting the sun today. Listen to sunspots. That's 3576. That's the number.
Always reminds me of that police song, eh?
What's that?
Oh yeah, the King of Pain.
King of Pain,
isn't it?
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's another shot here from David Hoskins. So everybody's shooting the sun.
Yes.
Oh, we had a sunny day.
Yeah, it's rare. It's rare.
Yes.
Get out and enjoy it.
True enough. And I think this one is this also David, or is that David? That's David Smarts. Yeah,
Smarts,
David's capturing them.
Good.
So as well, yeah.
Awesome, Dave. Way to go.
Good stuff.
Yes, sir.
Joey Craswell with his Sea Star.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody's out shooting the sun.
Yeah. Awesome stuff.
That's when I charge my batteries.
There. And this one we got from Kathy Adams, the Rosette.
Rosette Nebula, beautiful.
3 nights in a row, she said, unheard of. And I did some solar imaging too, 49 minutes of integration with my Sea Star. That's a Sea Star. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get some nice images from those things there.
Stacked the Sea Star and stressed and processed in Photoshop. Awesome.
Right on.
Yeah, looks good.
And if you have photos you'd like to share, just send them in to astronomybythebay@gmail.com. As you can see, we love sharing them, and we'll have them up on our next broadcast. Well, that's all we have there. Now we gotta get up a couple of little things here. If you want to just bear with me for a second. I'm gonna bring this one up over here. Just another moment, if you don't mind.
Imagine that music.
Off most yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And anyway, while Chris is doing that, Brad, yeah, I agree with you about the best time to shoot is that, because the nice thing about this phase of the moon is the sky, we're not in total darkness. So it's so much easier to capture your foreground and the moon all at the same time, where you don't have to do two exposures.
And the moon's not so bright. Like you can get it alongside. Like I find usually this phase works well with cityscapes.
Yeah.
Because like the brightness of the moon kind of matches that twilight and like the lights in the buildings and all that. It's a really good fit.
Yeah, and you get a lot of opportunity. A couple of weeks ago, I was over the west side, and there was the moon was just at that early phase, and then there's a water tower there. So I started walking across the parking lot and following it because you could pretty well see because always it darks down. So you knew it was going to land on it, or you could just kind of walk over and kind of get it where you want it.
And it follows you. That's
that's
the trick. Yeah.
Always did when I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's our show for this evening. We hope you enjoyed the program tonight. Special thanks, of course, to Brad Perry for joining us. Steve, Brad, I hope you come back and join us again.
I'd love to.
Back with you again.
Awesome.
Great having you, sir.
Appreciate you having me.
Special thanks to, of course, goes out to Rosanna for her fabulous fun fact segment again. Awesome, Rosanna. I know we're going to find life down on the bottom of those oceans. I'd like to know on those moons. I think we're going to find something. Anyway, remember too, we do love getting your photos, so send them into astronomybythebay@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to share them on our next broadcast. Special thanks to, of course, to our friends at Rogers for joining us again this evening. Brad, hang on, because when we sign off, we don't sign off, so you'll be. So until next week, I didn't mention that earlier. Until next week, everybody, wishing you all clear skies. As we like to say, open your eyes to view the skies and keep your scopes. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.